And Yaakov lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the whole age of Yaakov was 147 years. And the time drew nigh that Yashrael must die. And he called his son Joseph, and said unto him,
If now I have found grace in your sight, put, I pray you, your hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me. Bury me not, I pray you, in Mitzrayim, but I will lie with my fathers, and you shall carry me out of Mitzrayim, and bury me in their burying place.
And he said,
I will do as you have said.
And he said,
Swear unto me.
And he swore unto him. And Yashrael bowed himself upon the bed's head. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph,
Behold, your father is sick.
and he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Yaakov and said,
Behold, your son Joseph comes unto you.
And Yashrael strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Yaakov said unto El Yosef,
El Shaddai appeared unto me at Luz, in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and will make you a multitude of people, and will give you this land to your seed after you for an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto you in the land of Mitzrayim, before I came unto you in Mitzrayim, are mine. As Reuben and Shimon, they shall be mine, and your issue, which you beget after them, shall be yours, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan Aram, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephratah, and I buried her there in the way of Ephratah. The same is Bethlehem.
And Yashrael beheld Joseph's sons, and said,
Who are these?
And Joseph said unto his father,
They are my sons, whom Elohim has given me in this place.
And he said,
Bring them, I pray you, unto me, and I will bless them.
Now the eyes of Yashrael were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Yashrael said unto El Yosef,
I had thought not to see your face, and lo, Elohim has showed me also your seed.
And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Yashrael's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Yashrael's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Yashrael stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said,
Elohim, before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak did walk, the Elohim which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth.
And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father,
Not so, my father, this is the firstborn. Put your right hand upon his head.
And his father refused, and said,
I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations.
And he blessed them that day, saying,
And you shall Yasharel bless, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh.
And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yashrael said unto El Yosef,
Behold, I die, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to you one portion above your brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite, with my sword and with my bow.
Bereshit, Genesis chapter 49. And Jacob called unto his sons, and said,
Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Yaakov, and hearken unto El Yasharel, your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power, Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then defiled it. He went up to my couch. Shimon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not into their secret. Unto their assembly my honor be not united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dug down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Yaakov, and scatter them in Yasharel. Yehuda, you are he whom your brethren shall praise. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, you are gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion, and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, nor a Torah giver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his foal into the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea. He shall be for a haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Sidon. Issachar is a strong ass, couching down between two burdens. And he saw that the rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people, as one of the tribes of Yasharel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that bites the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for your Yeshua, O Yahuwah. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He gives goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong, by the hands of the mighty Elohim of Yaakov. Even by the Elohim of your father, who shall help you, and by El Shaddai, who shall bless you, with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lie under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of your father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors. Unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
All these are the 12 tribes of Yasharel, and this is it that their father spoke unto them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said unto them,
I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his woman. There they buried Yitzhak and Rivkah his woman. And there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth.
And when Yaakov had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up his ruach, and was gathered unto his people. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 50. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Yasharel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Mitzrayim mourned for him 70 days. And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spoke unto the house of Pharaoh, saying,
If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. In my grave, which I have dug for me in the land of Canaan, there shall you bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray you, and bury my father, and I will come again.
And Pharaoh said,
Go up, bury your father, according as he made you swear.
And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Joseph and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Yarden. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanim, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said,
This is a grievous mourning to the Mitzrayim.
Wherefore, the name of it was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Yarden. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with a field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Mitzrayim, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said,
Joseph will perchance hate us, and will certainly requite us with all the evil which we did unto him.
And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying,
Your father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray you now, the transgression of your brethren, and their sin, for they did unto you evil. And now we pray you, forgive the transgression of the servants of the Elohai of your father.
And Joseph wept when they spoke unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said,
Behold, we be your servants.
And Joseph said unto them,
Fear not, for am I in the place of Elohim? But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but Elohim meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not, I will nourish you and your little ones.
And he comforted them and spoke kindly unto them. And Joseph dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children also of Machir the son of Manasseh were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said unto his brethren,
I die, and Elohim will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land unto the land which he swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Yaakov.
And Joseph took an oath of the children of Yashrael, saying,
Elohim will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence.
So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Mitzrayim.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole
goes. You're listening to the Revolutionary Radio Project with your host, Rob Skiba.
All I'm offering is the truth.
Hello and welcome to the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, and I'm excited to be joined once again this evening by my friend and co-host, Zen Garcia, for our continuing study of the book of Genesis with correlated texts from ancient Hebrew writings like the Legends of the Jews and Joshua and whatnot. And so let's go ahead and just jump in here. Zen, are you there, sir?
I am, brother. It's always a pleasure and honor to be here with you and the listening audience, and I think that what we're doing is really a blessing for a lot of people. So yeah, I love doing it.
Yeah, man. Good to have you back and continue on this journey here. What you been up to since last time we spoke?
I finished up that article on the Holy Spirit. It ended up being like 24 pages long, so I just sent it to Noel and told him to break it up as he needs to, and also did a really short article on the antediluvian, the pre-Adamites antediluvian world, the first world age, because the last 2 books I wrote are a series about that, the pre-Adamites and the antediluvian world, and then the dragon lords, the antediluvian kings. And so people that are, interested in all that can go check that out. But now I'm really excited and looking forward to getting into writing a children's book for my granddaughter, which, my son just released the second book of his Enoch series for children. And so I'm going to do this one on the infancy and early childhood of Yahushua, but beginning with the story of Joachim and Hannah, the mother of Mary, the Virgin Mary, and then going through that and into the infancy, childhood, because there's a lot of stories that people don't know about concerning the early years of Christ before his ministry, and as we were talking about in the last show about how even the idols, when they were ran to Egypt, how all the idols bowed before him, even as a 2-year-old child, that they recognized his sovereignty, and even the inanimate objects bowed before him, the idols of Satan. And so that's another one of those confirmations, like Legion, have you come to torment us before the time. So
yeah, you ever see the TV series The 4400?
No, I have not. I have seen it, on, I think it's on Netflix, but I haven't
might
seen
be. Yeah, it might be.
Maybe.
I have it on
Cinema Free, something.
Yeah, I mean, one of the streaming platforms probably has it. I have it on DVD box set, but yeah.
Oh, nice.
The premise of the show is that everybody who has been abducted by aliens, so to speak, since like the early 20th century, they are all returned at once, at one time, at the same time, in a ball of light in, I think it was like Mount Shasta, Washington, or something.
That's
and
yeah, I thought that was in California, but not positive. Yeah, well, it's one of those that there's a lot of New Age hype around.
Yeah,
Mount Shasta.
Yeah, I think it was Mount Shasta. Anyway, it was in Washington State, as I recall it on the show. But
okay, maybe
if it's a different mountain, whatever, I'm pretty sure it was in Washington
It's on the
State.
West Coast. Definitely.
Somewhere in the West Coast, yeah. So all these people are just they appear on this beach there at a mountain lake, and for them, yesterday was 1950 or whatever year it was that they were abducted. So there are people from all different decades there, and over the course of the series, we find out that they have special abilities, they have powers, and when they do like some scientific tests on them to figure out why it is, they find out that they have a chemical called promycin that it is enabling them to do it. And Sheila picked on it pretty quick. She's like, promycin? And she's like, pro my son? And I don't know that the creators of the show were Christians or not, but they were definitely picking up on biblical themes throughout the show. And various people, like Sean, one of the main characters, he had the gift of healing. And I often wondered why it was that Yeshua would heal somebody and then tell him not to tell anybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, were you kidding me? I mean, I've been, whatever my ailment was for my whole life, and now I don't have it anymore. I want to tell everybody,
Right.
But they did a scene with Sean, and he feels compassion on these people that are strung out on drugs and homeless and whatever and all messed up, and heals somebody. And of course, everybody that sees that, they're like, hey, and they just mob the guy. And it always, for Sean's character, it always took a little bit out of him to heal somebody. So Jordan Collier, JC, kind of a play perhaps on Jesus Christ,
right.
he rises to a position of leadership among the 4,400, and he takes Sean under his wing, and he's like telling him, listen, man, you can't be doing that. I mean, I understand you want to help people like that, but it can kill you, if you do too much of it. And, I don't know that would have been the case with Christ, but, when the woman touched the hem of his garment, he felt power go out of him, so if he could feel it leaving him, maybe he had, a certain reserve. I don't know, that would wipe him out, I don't know. But at least, from a fictional point of view, it illustrated some pretty cool things. But at the end of, I think it was the end of season 1, this character named Lily, she gives birth to a child that is presumed to be like a chosen one kind of thing, and they have to escape because the world's like freaking out about the 4400 and they want to get them, so they're trying to find places of refuge and whatnot, and she ends up, Lily is a white girl, and she ends up marrying a black man from the 1950s, and so they're still dealing with a little bit of prejudice and stuff like that. So they're on the run for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
right.
When at the end, I think it was the end of the season finale of season 1, they have the baby in the car and they take off and they're driving down this long road with all these tall pine trees. And as the car's passing the trees, all the trees are bowing to the car.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
wow, yeah, that's kind of cool.
And then they snap back, as the car, passes them. But I mean, it was just a really cool visual effect, and that's kind of what made me think of it when you were telling me, about what you were saying.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if they had read, the same stories.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly got some, inspiration from somewhere, and
right, totally.
Very, very interesting things, but. Changing the subject, did you get a chance, or have you seen anything that's going on? There's a new website, frankspeech.com, with
no, I haven't even heard of it.
Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy. Yeah.
MyPillow.
Yeah, the guy.
The American-made company. Okay.
Yeah, well, he was all pro-Trump and everything, and. Trying to expose what happened with the elections and everything. Yesterday I posted a 1-minute video like, stop what you're doing and watch this, and I told everybody to go to this website. And of course, when I did that, it was right after watching some really, really powerful presentations. The presentations I saw were like, whoa, man, this is crazy, undeniable about the fraud and stuff that had taken place. And I post that, and then like right after I post that, like half the day yesterday was just Mike ranting. I'm like, forget this. This isn't important. This is, I understand his passion and his zeal and frustration. I get it, but like nobody wants to watch that,
Right.
But it's on again right now. It's a cyber symposium that will go through, I believe, tomorrow, August 12th. Presenting just tons of forensic evidence, and some people are, when you go to the site, it's like another YouTube. You got to create an account, but all you have to do for here is put your email and phone number, which of course many people are apprehensive about doing. And I'm like, look, just when I did it, there was no verification. A lot of times when you do something like that, they send you a verification email that you got to click and go back, like a double opt-in kind of thing. This didn't have that, so I'm like, look, just put a bogus email and a incorrect phone number. But I guess the other platforms like on Rumble, and some of the non-YouTube streaming platforms are also streaming it, so people could probably just go on like Rumble and search for Cyber Symposium. But wow, man, lots of very information. I got it playing in the background here right now. I just got it muted, and they've got a lot of interesting forensic data being talked about on that show. So he's bringing a lot to light.
I was never in doubt, about there being massive fraud. I mean, even from what was presented, even to the Department of Justice and to the Supreme Court, and I mean, how they could, just completely deny and not even look into and just write it off as nothing. It just shows the amount of corruption, even at those levels where justice is supposed to be served, and so that's what's just discouraging.
Yeah, and it's kind of frustrating to me because there's a lot of people in the comment section going, that I'm a shill and everything, and how can I buy the two wings of the bird of prey? I'm like, look, guys, I've been preaching that myself for over a decade. I get it. And presidents are selected, not elected. I get it. I wrote about it. I've done conferences on it. But for the first time in my lifetime, they're exposing how and why that happened. Like, that has never happened before. We've known presidents are selected, not elected, but the fact is, your votes do matter, but it's who counts the votes that determines that matters more. And for the first time in my lifetime, 52 years, it's finally been exposed. Like, this is why your votes, didn't matter, so to speak. They counted, but they didn't matter, and they didn't matter because the person that counted them, or the agency that counted them, or whatever, didn't count them correctly. They didn't represent the people. And so I'm like, all you people who consider yourself truthers, you should be happy about this. Finally, somebody's exposing what we've been saying and showing exactly how they did it. So, we know it. It's like, I don't get it. Like, and they're, constantly blasting the mainstream media for the fraud that they are and how they're complicit and everything. I'm like, guys, this is what we've been saying. We've been saying, media lies and everything. Now we have people on high places. We even had a president who was going around saying that fake news, right? It's like, come on. I mean, this is what we've been looking for. You guys should be supportive of it. No, you're a shill. I'm like, oh, brother. I'm just going to stop reading comments, I think. I think that's probably the best thing for me to do.
Right. And you can't please everybody.
No, a lot of people were getting it, though. And, of course, now, and I have the same question myself, is, well, this is great information, but is anything going to come of it? That's the,
that's the thing. That's
the real thing. I mean, how corrupt is the judicial system? If they're not even going to they're not even going to look at it. Right. You can have all the evidence in the world, but if they're not going to even look at it, then what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point?
But I think if enough people, it's 300 million people plus in this country, start seeing this stuff, and it doesn't matter, red, blue, it doesn't matter who you voted for. This is important for all of us if we want to save this country. If the masses wake up to what's going on here, then, that's a whole different story. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see.
And, I think it's important for the American people to know that no matter which side you're on, if corruption to this degree, so much so that, our will and our choice, or our seeming, the will of the people and the choice can be just pushed out and nullified and eradicated, then what is all this political fervor for? All this go out and everybody's vote matters and everyone count it when it really doesn't, and so truth matters.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who is making an effort to expose the truth, we need to support them. Because that's what we're supposedly about too. I mean, this show right here is called Quest for Truth. Now, granted, we're looking specifically at biblical narratives here, but that's a broad stroke, Quest for Truth. I mean, I know you share the same attitude that I do. I just want to know what the truth is about whatever it is.
Exactly.
Right. Tell me what the truth is, or let me look into the evidence to see what I can determine is the truth.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm so happy that many people are getting on board with the 444 prayer initiative. I've had my
that's awesome.
I got my cell phone has an alarm set to go off, and somebody suggested something, and not to get weird about it, but there's something to being grounded, in the sense of earth grounding, grounding to the earth, and I recently got some grounding pads that you can, because most Americans especially rarely ever get grounded, because we wear rubber sole sneakers, and we're on carpet all day long, and most of us have indoor sedentary jobs. We're not going outside, and people make fun of tree huggers, so to speak, but there's actually, the more I look into it, I'm like, man, there's really something to that,
Something to it, exactly, yes.
Because trees have roots to go deep down, and that's, that's really grounded. That's why, so
they're connected.
Yeah, there's something to it, and they say one of the reasons why humans get pleasure out of petting animals, dog or cat or whatever, is because they have direct contact with the ground, when they're outside, and then when they come in and you pet them, you're getting the negative ions or whatever, you're able to get some of the sensation. You don't know it, like, you don't,
right.
You just intuitively feel the difference. There's a feel-good mechanism, that kicks in, therapeutically when you pet an animal that has been grounded out there. So anyway, we got some grounding pads, and you just plug them into the ground portion of your electrical outlet, and so it's plugged into the house ground, and they give you a tester you can plug in to see if it's properly grounded. So you just, like right now, I'm sitting at my computer barefoot with the pad underneath it, so I'm grounded at my computer here. And anyway, somebody posted in I think it was in the video that I did on the 444 Prayer Initiative. He just felt like, what if we, he was just putting a what if. He's like, I don't want to sound weird or anything, but what if we were like grounded when we pray, like whether we go outside or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I was like, I didn't do this on purpose, but when I go to prayer at 444, typically I'm at my computer anyway. So I'm like, well, dude, that's funny you should say that, because I literally just bought some grounding pads. I'm grounded right now, and when I pray, I'm typically right here at my computer. So who knows? I don't know that there's anything to that at all, but
right.
Fascinated by the idea.
It doesn't hurt,
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt.
Well, the other thing, that we were talking about, and I don't remember exactly what text it was that we were reading, but it was speaking about how even the logs that were on the fire, the Levite priest, they select certain logs because of the aroma that it carries up to the throne of the Most High.
Yeah.
And also even they were burning like incense or whatever. They were burning things that they said that the smoke is what carries the prayers up to the Most High.
Yeah.
And so that's another aspect that people might consider on I don't incorporating whatever, but that the smoke of something carrying it. Carrying the prayers, that might be something to that as well. Not that I think that God needs anything like that to hear our thoughts, but to have something of
biblical
savory smell, and it's also biblical something. That could be a sweet way to spice up, so to speak, our prayers to the Most High.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, and I understand where you're coming from, but there's going to be people out there saying, why does it have to be 444? Like, there's all people wigging out like, this sounds occultic, 444.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. This is why Christians can't do anything, because they can't agree.
Yeah.
Like, they're never united on anything. There's no mystical reason other than I was like, well, I remember the numbers meaning God at work in the earth through his covenant people, so that's cool.
That's totally cool.
But we should be praying all day, and many of us do, we're off and on.
Absolutely.
But the reality of it is we're working, we're doing things,
Right.
So
right.
you can't be praying. If you have a job or if you're actually engaged in doing something, you can't be praying 24/7. So a call to prayer for everybody just to stop for 4 minutes. And most people who even have a 9 to 5 or whatever can take 4 minutes, take a quick break. At your cubicle if you have to or whatever, get up to go to the bathroom or something, 4 minutes to pray in unity, knowing that there are thousands, perhaps even millions of others doing the same thing at the same time, right. And so, look, anybody out there that's freaking out, we're not trying to advocate for anything mystical or anything like that. We're just saying, look, this is an opportunity where everybody can set their watch and pray in unity at the same time, for, a lot of the same things, praying for justice. And I was suggesting creating prayer targets, to focus on. And I was like, Georgia Guidestones, that's a good target for you. Let's pray fire down from heaven.
Yes, right.
Pray for an earthquake to knock that thing down, and God's big enough that he can create a localized earthquake that doesn't affect any humans but knocks down the stones.
Right.
swallows them up, sends them right down the Sheol or whatever, why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's...
yeah, fully. Why not?
And see what happens. I mean, this can be kind of a fun experiment, right? Let's...
right.
And see God show off, It's like, okay, what if we all did our part? And let's see
what would he do.
What's he gonna do? And I mean, how cool would that be if like everybody's praying with intent this week against all of the precepts of the Georgia Guidestones. The first one should be concerning to everybody. They want to wipe out over 7 billion people to get the population down to 500 million. That's a good thing to pray against.
Yeah, I'd say.
And what's going on with the pokey poke and everything right now. Do you ever wonder how they're going to achieve that first one? They've got a plan.
Exactly, right.
Maybe we should pray against it.
They're pushing hard.
Yeah, there was a song by a Christian rock band, Whiteheart. You ever listen to Whiteheart?
I haven't heard of them.
They were pretty huge back in the 80s and 90s. But anyway, there's a song, I forget maybe it was No Taboo, one of the songs they had a line in the song that said, "Are they working harder at what we think is wrong than we are at what we know is right?"
Right.
And yeah, that's a great line right there because they're working hard on their agendas,
no doubt.
How hard are we working to, counter it and to have, better godly agendas?
Right. Right. And we need to do that kind of thing. And it doesn't hurt. And yeah, the Georgia Guidestones, wow, can you imagine if after setting up this initiative there was something in the next morning or whatever, even if it's a month down the line, Georgia's Guidestones all of a sudden crumbled to dust.
Yeah. Well, you heard about, or did you hear about the George Floyd mural that somebody painted? He's being like almost deified these days. The Saint
right.
George.
Mm-hmm.
And they painted this picture of George Floyd across this whole side of a building, and that building got hit by lightning, but only on George Floyd.
What?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What
If you just Google George Floyd hit by lightning, and I'm like, well, of all the places that it could have hit, it just blew that whole thing, to smithereens. Was that God? I don't know, but it's just, that's the kind of thing when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, why not? It's like,
right.
When you look at all the
Reminds
pain.
me of the Vatican.
Yeah.
When the Vatican was struck by lightning.
Well, and we know that, biblically speaking, prophetically speaking, there's going to be a great firestone come down and slam into, right, what was it, Nebuchadnezzar's dream, I think, with the statue and the feet and
right,
the whole
with
thing.
The statue and all the kingdoms, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that may have just been a dream vision, but I believe that kind of thing can happen. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, just want to encourage people, start thinking outside the box, right? Just start thinking, in an ideal world, what we would like to see, in line with, our Father's will. We know that He's
no limit.
He's against human trafficking. He's against, the modification of our temples, and He's against lots of things that are happening right now. So we know we can pray with confidence that we are praying in accordance with His will. And He said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. He didn't say, oh, it's going to get too overpopulated, we have to do a depopulation campaign to get the population down to 500 million. That's totally against God's will. So you know that you're praying in accordance with Yahuwah's will when we're praying against, the enemy's will. So
normalization of abomination, Alice Bailey's 10-point plan to destroy the family and Christian values, to install the New World Order, all of that, as a community, we should be sharing and thinking of ideas and, coming against the enemy in the manner that they are, because they are certainly have declared war against us, and most people don't even know that the enemy exists, so.
Exactly. Well, that's a good point to hold on here. It looks like we are, going to break right now, so we'll come back and jump right into our Genesis study.
All right.
And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, here on TFR, and I'm joined with my friend and co-host, Zen Garcia. and we are about ready to jump right into our Genesis study here. Zen, last week on your show, I believe you were reading from Legends of the Jews, and you had stopped at a paragraph where the last part of it was the land that was theirs by right, talking about they went to Goshen,
right.
and that was the land that, and then we just got into commentary, you and I talking, so I don't think you got to finish that if you wanted to pick up.
Sure, I will do that.
So I think the last thing you read was took Sarah away from Abraham by force and had given it to her as a irrevocable possession. I think it was the last.
Yes, I have that right here.
Cool.
So I will continue. All right, the Legends of the Jews, Book 2. In their conversation with Pharaoh, the brethren of Joseph made it plain to the Egyptian king that it was not their intention to remain in Egypt forever. It was to be only a temporary dwelling place. Then Joseph set Jacob, his father, before Pharaoh, and when the king saw him, he said to Og, who happened to be with him at that moment, "Seest thou, thou wast wont to call Abraham a sterile mule, and here is his grandson with a family of 70 persons?" Og would not believe his own eyes. He thought Abraham was standing before him. So close was the resemblance of Jacob and his progenitor. Then Pharaoh asked about Jacob's age, to find out whether he actually was Jacob and not Abraham. And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Using the word pilgrimage in reference to life on earth, which the pious regard as a temporary sojourn in alien lands. Few and evil," he continued, "have been the days of the years of my life. In my youth I had to flee to a strange land on account of my brother Esau. And now, in my old age, I must again go to a strange land. And my days have not attained unto the days of the years of the life of my fathers, in the days of their pilgrimage." These words sufficed to convince Pharaoh and Og that the man standing before them was not Abraham, but his grandson.
Okay, hang on a second. Whoa, this is Og of Bashan that's not Og of Bashan.
Hanging out with Pharaoh.
This is Og of Bashan hanging out with Pharaoh?
Seems, well, yeah, I mean, I guess because he still would be alive until they are freed and go into the land of Canaan, and it would make sense if he was a king as well over the 60 cities in the in the Middle East as well, that maybe he was just there on a stately visit and hanging out with Pharaoh when this happened, but he wasn't killed until Moshe took the people and into the land Canaan, and then Joshua and they took care of him and Amalek and then the rest of the giants that were there dwelling in the land.
Boy, this paints a really interesting picture. If you imagine this sort of regal courtyard and a young pharaoh sitting on a throne with a 15-foot giant standing beside him, and the giant's looking down as a Amorite king looking down, and because if he was around for all this time, if he was during the time of the Genesis 14 war, for instance, he's kind of freaking out thinking this is Abraham, that Jacob looks so much like Abraham. Wow, that's just a fascinating thing to contemplate right there, because Jacob at this point is old, and so he would have perhaps looked like what Og, if in fact Og was, if this is the same Og, first of all, and if this is the Og that, and he's of the Amorites that was around in the Genesis 14 war and knew of Abraham, he had to have been a little bit quaking in his boots probably.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially because it sounds like he knew the prophecy that Abraham's descendants would inherit the land, and he calling him a sterile mule then all of a sudden, here's one that looks like Abraham and his descendant, then the prophecy is coming true.
Huh.
So, because perhaps he and Pharaoh had been discussing that. And then now Pharaoh finding out that Joseph is also of his lineage and his line, that would really freak them out. I could see why then they would be worried and they would want to reduce their generations and to start, slaughtering and killing their male born to try to eradicate them as population.
Yeah, I mean, it never occurred to me to think of such alliances, but that would actually make a lot of sense, I mean.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you have, and especially if Dr. Judd Burton's right, that Raphaim, it represents the royalty of the Nephilim. That we already know he's a king. I mean, we know about King Sihon and King Og, that they are biblically recognized as kings, and so Pharaoh, of course, is the king of Egypt. But at this time, all the surrounding lands are in famine, so it makes sense that there would be royal delegations coming down to survive the famine.
Yes.
And be among Pharaoh, somewhat as peers, even though I believe Egypt had certainly by this point risen to. There's probably been an empire at this point. He's almost like the emperor.
Absolutely.
And the other ones are kings over their, local domains.
Right.
Wow.
Right, yeah, and if the land, if the fat of the land and all the lavishness is there in Egypt, as a king, why would you not just hang out?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And stay there.
And, they would be, bartering and working out, various, alliances with each other.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, I'll give you food, but I want access to this, or I want that, or, whatever. And, of course, there would be, if he's like the emperor at this point, the pharaoh, the kings are going to be sucking up for,
absolutely, yeah.
Positions within his empire to maybe even take out some of their rivals, you could just see the politics
taking advantage
of
the plenty.
Yeah, and brown nosing to
absolutely
gain favor with the emperor, so that
political favor. Yeah, that's the way it works.
Wow, I mean, this just opened up a whole lot of potential storylines in my head when it comes to if visualizing this as a movie plot.
Right, fully. And then, it completely makes sense then why the shift, when they had, even if the next Pharaoh didn't know of him, but even if he did, if this were part of the plot, then it completely makes sense why they shifted in their, honor of Joseph and his family, finding out, oh, well, he's the guy that's supposed to, and he's from the family that was said to be the inheritors of the land, Canaan, and if they get set up there, they're going to be our enemies. Maybe we should do everything we can to reduce them in numbers
before they go back.
Work them, before that promise is actually fulfilled. So that makes a lot of sense.
Wow, yeah, because. I think it was the first paragraph I think you read. They made it plain that their sojourn in Egypt was going to be a temporary one.
Exactly.
That they were going to go back, and so if he made it plain, hey, listen, we're just here for the famine. We're going to definitely go back to our land. And Og is a representative of leadership within the land of Canaan, from which Jacob, was known for wiping out Shechem, and they were all. They had a reputation for wiping out lots of people within Canaan. So,
and the giants specifically,
man, this makes a lot of sense then, and on top of that, especially if this was a young pharaoh, as we've suspected he was, that would be an interesting show of intimidation to Jacob and his family coming down as they come in and they walk into this royal palace, and he's got 15-foot bodyguards, or subservient kings from Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely something to consider.
Very cool.
All right, now we'll continue. When Jacob uttered the words, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage have been few and evil," God said to him, "Jacob, I saved thee out of the hands of Esau and Laban. I restored Joseph unto thee, and made him to be a king and a ruler. And yet thou speakest of few and evil days. Because of thy ingratitude, thou wilt not attain unto the days of the years of the life of thy fathers." And Jacob died at an age 33 years less than his father Isaac's.
Oh wow,
that's
a pretty potent paragraph right there. Jacob's lamenting, hey, I've lived a long life, but it's been rough. My days have been mostly evil, and God's like,
right.
Excuse me, dude.
Don't you see all the blessings I've poured out on you and your family?
Boy, that's a word against grumbling. Yeah. It's like, especially if God's done a lot for you, and
yeah, exactly.
I could certainly say He has a lot for me. So it kind
for
of
all of us
kind of hits me. It's like, all right, Father, forgive me because you have done great and marvelous, wonderful things.
Yes.
Forgive me for when I doubt you, and
right.
Because you see God's attitude right here when Jacob says that,
right.
And from Jacob's perspective, you could think about things that have happened to him. Some of it brought on by himself, with the things that he did with his brother, and
right, yeah,
he gets back what he deserves, sort of with Laban, and then he has all these children, everything's great, and then his beloved firstborn from the wife that he truly wanted and loved is presumed dead. So you can see from his perspective, he's like, "Oh man, it's been rough," but
right.
Yahuwah's like, "Hey, dude. So because you got this attitude, you're gonna die at 130 years less than your father Isaac." Wow.
Mm-hmm. I think this whole component here, that really all of us are guilty of this, of only focusing on the
negative
trials and the tribulations and not recognizing and being thankful and grateful for all the bounty and blessing that the Most High pours on us. So yeah, I think this is part of the human disposition to I guess to
focus on the
place
negative.
more focus. Yeah.
That's funny because I was part of you probably heard me talk about the scripture-based self-help program that was used to basically save my life, and I was involved with that for so many years. And after doing a conference, we would have evaluation forms for the attendees to fill out, so they could sort of give constructive criticism and how did we do, right? Rate your directors and your trainers and stuff like that. And you might have 50 people in the group, and you get like, let's say 48. This guy's amazing. He was the most incredible ever. He saved my life, and he was just, oh man, the insights and blah blah. It could like glowing, report, and there'd be 2 people. He sucked. He was just terrible, and inevitably those would be the ones that would like, you're like, oh man. And my mentor is like, Rob, why are you focusing on the 1 or 2 when all the rest of them said you did a great job?
Right.
And it's the same in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube for that matter. You might have 5,000 likes and 10 dislikes, and a couple of trolls in the chat room or in the comment section. What do you focus on, right? Well,
yeah,
I don't know.
Those are the ones that stand out, especially when they are verbally accusing you and condemning you and judging you. Those are the ones that are the most annoying, so of course they're going to be bothersome.
Well, Robbie Davidson put a little bit of that in perspective for me too. He's like, dude, he said he worked in what do you call it, customer service before. If you work in the customer service department of a business, you're gonna have to have a certain temperament, because otherwise you're gonna be tempted to think, oh my God, especially if let's say you created the product. You don't ever want to be the creator of a product and do customer service, because you're gonna want to commit suicide. You're gonna be like, oh my God, the whole world hates me and this is the worst product ever. And he's like, think about it, dude. Did you ever call customer service to thank them for how amazing the product is that you enjoy? Right. Nobody does it. They're just, whatever product or service you have, that if there's no problem, you just enjoy it, But if there is a problem, that's when you call customer service to complain about it. But if you're working customer service, that's all you hear is the negativity all day long of people dissatisfied. He's like, you got to kind of put it in that perspective. I'm like, that's a good point, because the majority of the people probably enjoy what we, they don't necessarily have to agree with everything we say, but they're not hostile against us. But it's the ones who are dissatisfied that typically are the most vocal, and will pop up all over the place in your chat room and comment sections.
All right. I will continue before the break.
Okay.
On going out from the presence of Pharaoh, Jacob blessed the king with the words, "May the years still in store for me be given unto thee, and may the Nile overflow its banks henceforth again and water the land." His words were fulfilled in order to show that the pious are a blessing for the world. God caused the Nile to rise above its bed and fructify the land of Egypt. Jacob and his family now settled in the land of Goshen, and Joseph provided them with all things needful, not only with food and drink, but also with clothing. And in his love and kindness he entertained his father and his brethren daily at his own table. He banished the wrong done to him by his brethren from his mind, and he besought his father to pray to God for them, and that he should forgive their great transgression. Touched by his noble sign of love, Jacob cried out, "O Joseph, my child, thou hast conquered the heart of thy father Jacob." Joseph had other virtues besides the title, the God-fearing one, born only by him, Abraham, Job, and Obadiah. He gained by reason of his kindness of heart and his generosity. Whatever he gave his brethren, he gave with a good eye, a liberal spirit. If it was bread for food, it was sure to be abundant enough not only to satisfy the hunger of all, but also for the children to crumble, as is their habit. But Joseph was more than a helper to his family. As a shepherd pastures his flock, so he provided for the whole world during the years of famine. The people cursed Pharaoh, who kept the stores of corn in his treasure chambers for his own use, and they blessed Joseph, who took thought for the famishing and sold grain to all that came. The wealth which he acquired by these sales was lawful gain, for the prices were raised not by him, but by the Egyptians themselves. One part of his possessions, consisting of gold and silver and precious stones, Joseph buried in 4 different places: in the desert near the Red Sea, on the banks of the Euphrates, and in 2 spots in the desert in the vicinity of Persia and Media.
That's a pretty long distance.
Right.
From the Red Sea to the Euphrates and different vicinities in the desert of Persia and Media. When we talked about this when I read it in the Joshua account, that there's probably a massive treasure hunt just waiting to be discovered out there.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, see, most people don't know about this kind of this text, and so just using this passage, I mean, if you have the technology that could, like they have the radar that goes into the ground, and that, I mean, if you have that and you could follow up on this, wow, that would be amazing, because the guy that discovered the city of Troy went according to the text, in Homer, and was able to. So yeah, this could totally be something like that.
Wow. I mean, it's pretty vague. In the desert near the Red Sea, so you'd have to look for a desert area near the Red Sea on the banks of the Euphrates. That's a long river, so that's it would take, and 2 spots in the desert in the vicinity of Persia and Media. So, this would be the kind of thing I'd run by Dr. Judd Burton or Dr. Aaron Judkins and say, "Hey guys,
Right.
What do you think about this?"
And you'd have to consider the topography, during those times.
Yeah,
somebody that
how
was
different.
familiar. Yeah. All right. Continuing. But yeah, very interesting. How you in ancient texts, people that are looking for lost ships, they do the same thing. They go through, just the accounts of historians or whatever to try to pinpoint location.
Well, yeah, I think, especially somebody who has a historian type of background could probably look for trade routes that may have, emanated from Goshen or whatever, and come up with a plausible direction at least. Obviously they wouldn't have done it right on the middle of the trade routes. They would have gone off the beaten path, I'm sure, to hide these things, but it would give them a general idea. Well, he probably had to have gone this direction, so it's probably, you can localize the area of searching anyway.
Yeah. And you could look for, like good places, because people that bury that kind of stuff, they're going to look for those kind of good places to entomb and to hide their riches.
And you wonder, would they have made markers, clues somewhere that, maybe.
And if that kind of thing is still out there,
it's not buried.
Right.
Fascinating.
Which they do usually, use some kind of indicator to give them or to mark spot,
Well, I mean, it would certainly make for a great Indiana Jones style.
Yeah, or even a documentary,
adventure,
like the whole Oak Island thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Very cool.
Yeah. All right, continue.
Oh, Korah found one of the hiding places.
Yeah, Korah discovered one of the hiding places, and the Roman Emperor Antoninus, the son of Severus, another. The other two will never be found because God has reserved the riches they hold for the pious, to be enjoyed by them in the latter days, the days of Messiah. That's cool.
Whoa!
And of course, God can, preserve and protection, whatever he would wish.
Yeah. So Korah found. So Korah presumably found it during the Exodus. When they were.
Yes.
Maybe
because he was very rich, and he used those riches to influence people to vote for him to try to overthrow Aaron.
Well, this also would speak to, like, where did they? I mean, I know the Egyptians gave gold and silver and rings and plates and whatnot to the Israelites as they were leaving in the Exodus. So I've always, because when they're building all this stuff for the tabernacle, I was like, where did they get all that metal? And they went and made a golden calf. That's a lot of metal.
Right. Right.
And especially, let's say, we're speaking hypothetically here, we're just speculating, but, what if much of the gold that Korah found was used for the golden calf? And then, of course, that's all ground to dust, and, people are made to eat it and all that, go back and look at that story. But, wow, and this Antoninus, son of Severus, but the other two reserved for in the latter days, the days of Messiah. So, would they have considered the first coming of Christ the latter days, or the latter days the way we understand the latter days? I'm going to suggest probably the latter.
Yes, the latter, because that's when his forever kingdom is set up, and then there's never, any Satan or death or evil. I mean, there is 1,000 years of and one more time of his releasing, but for the most part, Messiah is established.
Yeah.
And then the pious also, the weak inherit. The meek inherit the earth. So, that would be an awesome way to celebrate and to break out a party. As far as having all these incredible things brought up from the ground.
So I think it's probably reasonable speculation to suggest that Korah may have found the location by the Red Sea, just because of the proximity that he was there, and they spent so much time.
Right.
It would be interesting for somebody who's a historian to look back at the Roman character and Antoninus, son of Severus, to see where his campaigns were. I'm going to speculate and suggest perhaps it was the Euphrates one that he might have found. And if that's true, then that would leave the ones in Persia and Media that would still be left to found. And if that's the case, it may confirm some things that I've been wondering is, in the second Exodus, are we going to be gathered together in Africa first before we make our way into the Promised Land? And are we going to follow a similar path, with the 42 camps, 42 months that we read in the book of Numbers, 42 camps, really? We have 42 months in Revelation, that might take us, in and around the areas of Persia and Media, perhaps. I don't know, just speculation, but we are going to the next break, so we'll come back and talk when we get back. And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, here on TFR. We are going into the second hour of the broadcast already. As usual, time is flying by. During the break, I was just doing a quick search to see the Persian and Media empire and all that. So I don't see any precedence in the Exodus account for anybody being up in that area. That's a bit off the beaten path from anybody during the Exodus. That's all up north and east of Israel. It looks like on the map. So, I mean, if he got as far as Media, that's pretty. Look at this Persian Media Empire. Yeah, that's quite because that's east of the Persian Gulf. And Media went all the way up to the Caucasus Mountains. Looking at
that's a far away, wide area.
That's quite a journey to send those riches, way up from Egypt. Huh. Okay, well, so much for that theory. just speculating, but.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Continuation. The remainder of Joseph's possessions he gave away, partly to his brethren and their families, and partly to Pharaoh, who put them into his treasury. It was upon his death that the staff and the garments were placed into the treasury. The wealth of the whole world flowed into Egypt at that time, and it remained there until the exodus of the Israelites. They took it along, leaving Egypt like a net without fish.
Wow.
The Israelites kept the treasure until the time of Rehoboam, who was deprived of it by the Egyptian king Shishak, and he in turn had to yield it to Zerah, the king of Ethiopia. Once more it came into possession of the Jews when King Asa conquered Zerah. By this time they held it for only a short while, for Asa surrendered it to the Armenian king Ben-Hadad to induce him to break his league with Baasha, the king of the 10 tribes. The Ammonites in turn captured it from Ben-Hadad, only to lose it in their war with the Jews under Jehoshaphat. Again it remained with the Jews until the time of King Ahaz, who sent it to Sennacherib as tribute money. Hezekiah won it back, but Zedekiah, the last king of the Jews, lost it to the Chaldeans, from whom it came to Persia, thence to the Greeks, and finally to the Romans, with the last remained for all time. The
people, but that was the remnant. That wasn't the stuff that he buried. That was the portion that Joseph kept for himself that got passed around. Wow. Yep. The people were soon left without means to purchase. It just shows that it was a massive wealth. Such huge amount of wealth, and that they got it for having all that corn and all that those victuals to be able to feed all those people.
The people were soon left without means to purchase the corn they needed. In a short time they had to part with their cattle, and when the money thus secured was spent, they sold their land to Joseph and even their persons. Many of them would cover themselves with clay and appear before Joseph and say to him, O Lord King, see me and see my possessions. And so Joseph bought all the land of Egypt, and the inhabitants became his tenants, and they gave a fifth of their ingatherings unto Joseph. The only class of people permitted to remain in possession of their land were the priests. Joseph owed them gratitude, for they had made it possible for him to become the ruler over Egypt. The Egyptians had hesitated to make him their viceroy because they shrank from choosing a man accused of adultery from so high an office. It was the priest that made the suggestion to examine Joseph's torn garment, which his mistress had submitted as evidence of his guilt, and see whether the rent was in front or in back. If it was in back, it would show his innocence. He had turned to flee, and his temptress had clutched him so the garment tore. But if the tear was in front, then it would be a proof of his guilt. He had used violence with the women, and she had torn the mantle in her efforts to defend her honor. The angel Gabriel came and transferred the rent from the forepart to the back, and the Egyptians were convinced of Joseph's innocence, and their scruples about raising him to the kingship were removed. As soon as the Egyptians learnt of the advantageous position of the priests, they all tried to prove themselves members of the caste. But Joseph investigated the lists in the archives and determined the estate of every citizen. The priests were favored in another way. Beside remaining in possession of their land, they received daily portions from Pharaoh. Wherefore God said, the priests that serve idols receive all they need every day. How much more do the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are my priests, deserve that I should give them what they need every day? The rest of the inhabitants of Egypt, who had to part with their land, were not permitted to remain in their native provinces. Joseph removed them from their own cities and settled them in others. His purpose herein was to prevent the Egyptians from speaking of his brethren derogatorily as exiles, the sons of exiles. He made them all equally alien. For the same reason, God later, at the time of the going forth of the Israelites from Egypt, caused all nations to change their dwelling places about, so that the Israelites could not be reproached with having had to leave their home. And finally, when Sennacherib carried the Jews away from their land into exile, it also happened that this king first mixed up the inhabitants of all the countries of the world.
That's interesting. So, instead of the Jews being, or the Israelites, I should say Hebrews, being ridiculed as exiles, everybody was put in that position.
Everybody.
Wow. And then Sennacherib comes along, and this goes back to what we've been talking about all along regarding true Israel, right? They were literally sifted into all nations.
All nations.
So nobody can make a claim to being true Israel based on melanin production. It's everywhere.
Right.
They're everywhere. They were mixed up everywhere.
Everywhere. Exactly. Yes. Did you want me to continue with Jacob's last wish?
Let's see. In a return of 17 years. I'm just kind of skimming through it right there.
Yeah. I can go for it a little bit.
Because this looks like it's going to get to the blessings, maybe. This portion.
Yeah, and that's the portion that we're stopping at, right?
Yeah, we haven't read that in Genesis 48 yet. So I'll give you a break. And
okay, sounds good.
Let me. I'm
down with it.
Pull up Genesis. Okay, Genesis 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, my father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And one told Jacob and said, Behold, my son Joseph cometh unto thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful and multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for an everlasting possession. And now thy 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt, before I came unto thee into Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. And thy issue which thou begettest after them shall be thine, and shall be called after the name of their brethren in their inheritance. And as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died by me in the land of Canaan in the way, when yet there was but a little way to come unto Ephrath, and I buried her there in the way of Ephrath. The same is Bethlehem. And Israel beheld Joseph's sons, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said unto his father, They are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place. And he said, Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them, Ephraim in his right toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him. And Israel stretched out his hand, and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who is the younger, and his left hand upon stretched out his right hand, and laid it on Ephraim's head, who is the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hands wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him, and he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. And Joseph said unto his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused, and said, I know, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, Behold, I die, but God shall be with you, and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite, with my sword and with my bow. Let me just see if this goes any further in the next one. Yeah, I'll go ahead and read the next chapter 2. This is where he blesses all the rest of the children. Chapter 49. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I might tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiledst, yeah, one of those weird words, defiledst, thou it, he went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren, instruments of cruelty, and are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. He shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass crouching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Yahuwah. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. For thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their father spake unto them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing he blessed them. And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. Wow. That's another powerful scene right there. Kind of a bummer, though, for his first few children. Oop, are you there? Hello.
Sorry.
Oh,
I had it on mute. I didn't want to bother you while you were reading, but yeah, the whole story is touching, and the fact that once he does reunite with his family and they come together, he knows that it's but a short time, and that he'll be leaving them, but at least he was able to reunite with Joseph and to see his face and to see his children, really reap the bounty of Joseph's position. And so, he was happy.
Yeah, I'm looking from my notes from Virtual House Church, because the names have meaning. And well, I'm surprised I don't have it on this study page here. I talk about the book, A Dictionary of Scripture Proper Names, a lot.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, well, I'll see if I can find it when you read the correlated Targum.
Targum.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's pretty fascinating when you look up the names in a book like that and then string them together in a sentence. You know what the sentence comes out to be.
Right.
Something else jumped out at me. Have you ever heard of Zion Oil and Gas?
Yes, I have. It's the one in Israel, right?
Yeah. But it was a Texas guy, a guy that he was reading about the blessings and about Asher dipping his foot in oil or something.
Yeah. Stan Johnson of Prophecy Club, he actually told me about that, and he's involved with that project.
Yeah, I was too for a while. I ended up having to liquidate my stock just because I needed the money at the time. But he was, again, like we were talking about earlier, reading the text and going,
Yes.
Just on a hunch, being an oil and gas guy here in Texas, he sent a crew over there to do some initial survey of the land that was appointed unto, I think it was Asher, if I'm not mistaken. And when they took a look at the land, they thought, not only does this land have the potential for oil, but there could be one of the largest oil deposits ever here.
Right.
Like, it was a pretty huge deal. So they haven't hit the proverbial gold mine yet, but I know they're still drilling out there. And they had to get various permits and stuff.
With all the oil that is found in the Middle East and all of those countries surrounding becoming rich from their reserves, it would not surprise me at all, for Israel and somebody to hit a deep pocket and massive in size.
Yeah. Well, I'll see if I can find that. I'm surprised it's not on that page. I don't know why I wouldn't have put it on that page. The page for Genesis 48, that's where it is,
Yeah.
But my website, Ephraim Awakening, I call it that, and when there's a map on my Virtual House Church page that shows it's a 119 Ministries plugin that they created for people they can kind of register, if you will, on this plugin if they're Torah observant, and they're blue, and I think the blue tags are just people, individuals, and the red tags, I believe, are perhaps fellowship groups that are meeting. I think
organizations.
I think that's how that works. But anyway, I mean, and these are just people who have taken the time to put themselves on this map. For every one on here, there's probably 10,000 that are not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so I point to this and say this is the Ephraim Awakening, and for those who are not familiar with that terminology, the parable of the prodigal son is the story of the northern and southern kingdom. The northern being Ephraim and the southern being Judah. That Judah, although Judah screwed up, and if you read the book of Hosea, he was not too pleased with Judah either, but he couldn't judge Judah the same way he did Ephraim in the sense of divorcing them like he did in Jeremiah 3, because he had promises that he had to fulfill through Judah. So, and part of that was given through the prophecy that Jacob gave here, Israel, over Judah. The scepter shall not depart from him. But we know that David eventually shows up, and then the Messiah is prophesied to come through David, and all that's through Judah. So he couldn't do to Judah what he did to the northern kingdom because he had promises that he had to fulfill, until Shiloh come, right? Until Yeshua comes. After that, well, kind of all bets are off. It's like, okay, now you're going to get judged for what you deserved, and we see that happen in 70 AD. But Ephraim was prophesied to become a multitude of nations. And so that's what you see depicted on this map here is Ephraim's waking up in the pig pen. And I imagine the scene where, if you know story of the prodigal son. He wastes everything and he ends up losing everything, and for a Hebrew to end up in a pig pen, that's pretty horrible. And I just have this vision where one day he wakes up in pig slop and looks around and is like, what have I done? Man, I wonder if Dad will take me back. And like the moment he says that in his head, I wonder if Dad will take me back. If you could take a picture of that, that's what I call the Ephraim awakening. That's where Ephraim wakes up and realizes, no, what, I've screwed up. I want to get back to the way it should be, and he goes back, and of course, the story. His father welcomes him with loving, arms and a big feast, and Judah's like, hey,
ring and robe.
He's like, your brother was lost, and now he's found. That's why I'm doing this.
Right.
This for me, this map represents Ephraim, the multitude of nations, also referred to as the fullness of the Gentiles, waking up. And I don't think we've totally arrived yet. I think there's still more to come in. But if you look at the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 4, I believe it is, where the prophet was told to lay on his side for 390 days, a day representing a year, 390 years, that was the judgment that was to be proclaimed on the northern kingdom, Ephraim, also known as Israel. The southern kingdom got 70 years and went to Babylon. They repented, they got to come back. Northern kingdom got 390, they didn't repent, and Leviticus 26 says if you don't repent in your chastisement, you get 7 times more the judgment. So 390 times 7, 2,730 years later, that takes you from the time of that event happening, it's like 720 something, I think, BC. I forget the exact number, but whatever it was, when you add the full duration to that, it ended in 2009. So this explosion of people all over the world happened. If you talk to most people that came in sort of early in this, if you want to call it a movement, it was 2009, 2010, roughly in that time frame, that the majority of these people came in, all of them independently, no leader, no cult, no religion, just waking up individually and saying, hey, my Bible doesn't begin in Matthew. Wow, check it out.
Yeah, right.
We're going to break. And we're back on the Revolutionary Radio Project. I'm your host, Rob Skiba, and we're in the final half-hour segment of the broadcast. And I'm talking with my friend and co-host, Zen Garcia. And right before the break, I was talking about what I referred to as the Ephraim Awakening. And if people want to know more about that, they can go to EphraimAwakening.com as my website, the EphraimAwakening.com. And I've got a link there that says, start here. What's this all about? What is the Ephraim Awakening? And on that page, there's a map that I'm talking about here with all the tags everywhere. This is what I refer to as the Ephraim Awakening. People everywhere just waking up at the same time, roughly 2009, 2010. There's still people doing it even to this day, coming in, more and more people. But if you go into the search window here and punch in Ezekiel 4, this is a quick way of finding a blog that I wrote called Leviticus 26, Ezekiel 4, and the Fullness of the Gentiles. And in that one, I go into an elaborate exegesis of the scriptures, going through and looking about Leviticus 26 says, if you don't learn your lesson, you get 7 times the judgment, and connect that to Ezekiel 4 with the judgment of 390 years. And the captivity by the Assyrians, that happened in 721 BC. So 390 years of initial judgment times 7 for not repenting is 2,730 years. 2,730 total, subtract 721 equals 2009. And that's why I believe that explosion of people all over the world, with, again, no leader, there was nobody that led this. The Holy Spirit did it. Just people all over the world waking up and realizing, hey, check it out, my Bible doesn't begin in Matthew. Going back to Genesis, and as they start reading Genesis and going forward in the Torah, they start, hey, the Sabbath thing, wow, I think we should still be doing that. Hey, wow, the feast, wow, look at all this. Hey, he's got dietary laws for our own health and benefit. And just independently, people all over the world waking up and trying to get back to the Father's ways, which is exactly the prodigal son story. And so I believe we are still in the accumulation of the fullness of the Gentiles coming in. And at one point, whenever Yahuwah says, okay, that's it, that's going to, when the fullness of the Gentiles come in, that's kind of game over at that point. Then we'll be looking at, in my opinion, that's going to be kicking off the greater Exodus, the second Exodus. It's going to make the first one pale in comparison. And, then we'll find ourselves in the latter days and the last times. So that's sort of my take on all of that.
Excellent. The Targum is, I'm on 47. Is that corresponding?
I think we did the Targum 47. I mean, you can read it and see if it sounds familiar. We're on 49. I read 48 and 49, so you can see if the Targum sounds familiar to you. Maybe we covered it already for 47, but I just read 48 and 49.
Okay.
You can read it again, 47 if you want.
All right, I'll do it really quick. That can't be that long. All right, 47. And Joseph came and informed Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren with their sheep, all oxen, and all that they have are come from the land of Canaan. And behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And from the extreme of his brethren he took 5 men, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, and presented them before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph's brethren, what is your work? And they said to Pharaoh, thy servants are pastors of sheep, both we and our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, to dwell in the land are we come, because there is no place of pasture for thy servants. Sheep, for the famine hath prevailed in the land of Canaan. Let thy servants therefore now dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake to Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren have come to thee. The land of Mizraim is before thee. In the fairest part of the land make thy father and thy brethren to dwell. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if thou know any among them men of ability, appoint them masters over my flocks. And Joseph brought Jacob his father and presented him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and said, may it please the Almighty that the waters of Nilos may be replenished, and may the famine pass away from the world in thy days. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, how many are the days of the years of thy life? And Jacob answered Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, for in my youth I fled before Esau my brother, and sojourned in a land not my own. And now, in the time of my old age, have I come down to sojourn here. And my days have not reached the days of the years of my life of my fathers, in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph brought his father and brethren to dwell, and gave them a possession in the land of Mizraim, in a goodly part of the country, in the country of Pelusim, as Pharaoh had commanded, Jerusalem, Pelusim. And Joseph sustained his father and his brethren and all his father's house with bread, according to the need of their families. But there was no bread grown in all the land, because the famine prevailed greatly, and the inhabitants of the land of Mizraim failed, and the dwellers in the land of Canaan, in the presence of the famine. And Joseph collected all the money which was found in the land of Mizraim and the land of Canaan, for the corn which he sold to them. And Joseph brought the money into the treasure house of Pharaoh. And the money was finished from the land of Mizraim and from the land of Canaan. And the Mizraim came to Joseph, saying, give us bread. Why should we die before thee? for all our money is finished. Jerusalem and hath failed. And Joseph said, Give your flocks, and for your flocks I will give you provisions, if the money be consumed. And they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread for their horses, and for the flocks of sheep, the oxen, and the asses. And he sustained them with bread for all their flocks for that year. And that year being ended, all the Mizraim came to him in the second year, and said to him, We will not hide it from my lord, that the money is finished, and my lord hath the flocks of cattle. There is nothing left us before my lord except our bodies and our land. Why should we die, and thine eye seeing it, both we and our land also? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants of Pharaoh. And give the seed of corn, that we may live and not die, and the land be not desolated. And Joseph bought all the land of Mizraim for Pharaoh, for the Mizraim sold every man his portion, because the famine prevailed over them, and the land became the property of Pharaoh. And the people of a province be removed to a city, and the people for the sake of the brethren of Joseph, that they might not be called wanderers. Therefore he said, them migrate from one end of Mizraim to the other. Jerusalem and the people who were dwelling in the province he removed into the city, and the people who dwelt in the city he removed into the province, that they might deride the sons of Jacob, and call them Galilean, wandering, yes. Only the land of the priests he bought not, because they had considered him innocent at the time when his master was seeking to put him to death, and they had delivered him from the judgment of death. And besides, he had said that a portion should be given them from Pharaoh. So they ate the portion which Pharaoh gave them, and sold not their land. And Joseph said to the people, Behold, I have this day bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Behold, I give you seed corn to sow the land, and at the time of the ingathering of your produce, you shall give the 5th part to Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be yours, for the seeding of your land, and for food, and for the provision of your houses and little ones. And they said, Thou hast preserved us. Let us find favor in the eyes of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph established it a law unto this day over the land of Mizraim, to take to Pharaoh a 5th part of the produce, except only the land of the priests, which was not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Mizraim, and they built there schools and mansions in the land of Goshen, and inherited therein fields and vineyards, and they increased and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mizraim 17 years, and the sum of the days of Jacob, of the days of his life, was 147 years. And the days of Israel drew near to die, and he called to his son, to Joseph, and said to him, If now I have found favor before thee, put thy hand on the place of my circumcision, and deal with me in goodness and truth, that thou wilt not bury me in Mizraim, that I may sleep with my fathers, and thou mayest carry me from Mizraim, and bury me in my sepulchre. But because he was his son, he did not so put his hand, but said, I will do according to thy word. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And immediately the glory of the Shekinah of the Lord was revealed to him, and Israel worshipped upon the pillow of the bed. Jerusalem and Israel praised upon the head of the couch. 48. And after these things it was told Joseph, Behold, thy father is lying ill. And he took his 2 sons with him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it was announced to Jacob, saying, Behold, thy son Joseph hath come to thee. And Israel strengthened himself, and sat upon the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai revealing himself to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said to me, Behold, I will increase thee and multiply thee and make thee an assemblage of tribes, and will give this land to thy sons after thee for an everlasting inheritance. And now thy 2 sons, who have been born to thee in the land of Mizraim, before I came to thee into Mizraim, are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh, as Reuben and Shimeon, shall be reckoned unto me, and thy children, whom thou mayest beget after them, shall be thine. By the name of their brethren shall they be called in their inheritance. And I beseech thee, to bury me with my fathers. Rahel died by me suddenly in the land of Canaan, while there was yet much ground to come to Ephrath. Nor could I carry her to bury her in the double cave, but I buried her there in the way of Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Israel looked at the sons of Joseph and said, From whom are these born to thee? And Joseph answered his father, They are my sons, which the word of the Lord gave me according to this writing, according to which I took Asenath, the daughter of Dinah, thy daughter, to be my wife. And he said, Bring them now near to me, and I will bless them. But Israel's eyes were heavy from age, and he could not see. And he brought them to him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, To see thy face I had not reckoned, but behold, the Lord hath also showed me thy sons. And Joseph brought them out from between his knees, and worshipped on his face upon the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right side, which was Israel's left, and Manasseh on his left side, which was Israel's right, and brought them to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it upon the head of Ephraim, though he was the younger, and his left hand upon the head of Manasseh, altering his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Jerusalem, he altered his hands, and he blessed Joseph, and said, The Lord before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did serve, the Lord who hath fed me since I have been unto this day, be pleased that the angel whom thou didst ordain for me, to redeem me from all evil, may bless the children. And let my name be called upon them, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and all the fishes of the sea in the multiplying are multiplied in the sea. So may the children of Joseph be multiplied abundantly in the midst of the earth. And Joseph saw that his father placed his right hand upon Ephraim's head, and it was evil before him. And he uplifted his father's hand, to remove it from off Ephraim, that it might rest on the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Lay thy right hand on his head. But his father was not willing, and said, I know, my son, I know that he is the firstborn, and also that he will be a great people, and will also be multiplied. Yet will his younger brother be greater than he, and his sons be greater among the nations. And he blessed him in that day, saying, In thee, Joseph my son, shall the house of Israel bless their infants in the day of their circumcision, saying, The Lord set thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And in the numbering of the tribes, the prince of Ephraim shall be numbered before the prince of Manasseh. And he appointed that Ephraim should be before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, Behold, my end cometh to die, but the word of the Lord shall be your helper, and restore you to the land of your fathers. And I, behold, I have given to thee the city of Shechem, one portion for a gift above thy brethren, which I took from the hand of Amorai at the time that you went into the midst of it. And I arose and I helped you with my sword and my bow. Jerusalem. And Behold, I have given thee one portion above thy brethren, the robe of the first Adam. Abraham, the father of my father, took it from the hands of Nimrod, the wicked, and gave it to Isaac my father. And Isaac my father gave it to Esau, and I took it from the hands of Esau my brother, not with my sword, nor with my bow, but through my righteousness and my good works.
Wow, the Targum just comes right out and tells you that. Wow.
Oh yeah, that was part of the book that I wrote, on the vestures of light and the rod of wonder. I mean, you find little snippets like this in a lot of the manuscripts, which help you piece together the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of just randomly thrown in there, but that's like huge.
Oh yeah, it's huge, especially when you're following the trail, investigating the story as I had been. I was, looking and searching all of the ancient manuscripts for little snippets like this to do and to put together and reveal the story of the garments of power and the rod of wonder, which is absolutely incredible when you learn the fullness of it.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, last one here. And Jacob called his sons and said to them, oh yeah, this is great, because there's a portion here about the Messiah that is not found in the regular manuscripts.
Nice.
And Jacob called his sons and said to them, purify yourselves from uncleanness, and I will show you the hidden mysteries, the ends concealed, the recompense or reward for the righteous, the retribution of the wicked, and the bower of Eden, what it is. And the 12 tribes of Israel gathered themselves together around the golden bed whereon he reclined, and where was revealed to him the Shekinah of the Lord. And though the end for which the king Messiah is to come had been concealed from him, then said he, come, and I will declare to you what shall befall you at the end of the days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and receive instruction from Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, the beginning of the strength of my generation, and the chief event of my thoughts. To thee belong the birthright, and the high priesthood, and the kingdom. But because thou hast sinned, my son, the birthright is given to Joseph, and the kingdom to Jehudah, and the priesthood to Levi. I will liken thee to a little garden in the midst of which there enter torrents, swift and strong, which it cannot bear, but is overwhelmed. Be repentant then, Reuben my son, for thou hast sinned, and add not that wherein thou hast sinned, it may be forgiven thee. For it is reckoned to thee as if thou went in to have to do with the wife of thy father at the time that thou didst confound my bed upon which thou wentest up. Shimeon and Levi are brothers of the womb. Their thoughts are of sharp weapons for raping. In their counsel my soul hath not had pleasure, and in their gathering against Shechem to destroy it, mine honor was not united. For in their anger they slew the prince and his ruler, and in their ill will they demolished the wall of their adversary. And Jacob said, accursed was the town of Shechem when they entered it within it to destroy it in their violent wrath and their hatred against Joseph, for it was relentless. If, said Jacob, they dwell together, no king nor ruler may stand before them. Therefore will I divide the inheritance of the sons of Shimeon into 2 portions. One part shall come to them out of the inheritance of the sons of Judah, and one part from among the rest of the tribes of Jacob. And the tribe of Levi I will disperse among all the tribes of Israel. Yehudah, thou didst make confession in the matter of Tamar. Therefore shall thy brethren confess thee, and shall be called Yehudaim from thy name. Thy hand shall avenge thee of thy adversaries, in throwing arrows upon them when they turn their backs before thee. And the sons of thy father shall come before thee with salutations. I will liken thee, my son Yehuda, to a whelp, the young of a lion. For from the killing of Joseph my son, thou didst uplift thy soul, and from the judgment of Tamar thou wast free. He dwelleth quietly and in strength as a lion, and as an old lion when he reposeth. Who may stir him up? Kings shall not cease, nor rulers from the house of Yehuda, nor Sapharim teaching the law from his seed, till the time that the king, the Messiah, shall come, the youngest of his sons, and on account of him shall the peoples flow together. How beauteous is the king, the Messiah, who will arise from the house of Yehuda. He hath girded his loins, and descended, and arrayed the battle against his adversaries, slaying kings with their rulers. Neither is there any king or ruler who shall stand before him. The mountains become red with the blood of their slain. His garments dipped in blood are like the outpressed juice of grapes. How beautiful are the eyes of King Messiah, as the pure wine. He cannot look upon what is unclean, nor on the shedding of the blood of the innocent, and his teeth, purer than milk, cannot eat that which is stolen or torn. And therefore his mountains are red with wine, and his hills white with corn, and with the coats of flocks. Zebulun
All right,
shall dwell
hold it there.
Okay,
we are pretty much about the end
Out of
here.
time.
That's really good stuff there.
Yeah, it
extended prophecy of the Messiah there.
Right.
I might have a chance real quick here before we hear the music here. While you were talking, I went through and did the names. If you read the meaning of the names, and published it on my virtual house church. So if you take the 12 sons and put their names together, the meaning is: see a son, hearkening, joined, he shall be praised. Dwelling, he will bring a reward. Judging an invader, happy, my wrestling, let him Israel add the son of my right hand. So that if you take the meaning of their names and put them together in a paragraph, that's that's what you end up with. And that was cool.
The Messiah, yeah.
Yeah, and in the Targum, that was really cool. I mean, it's saying that he would be of the youngest son, which we see the youngest son of Jesse being David, from the line of Judah.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's
the stem of Jesse.
That's pretty wild, man. I mean, the Targum really does, expand on it significantly to help you really understand these things.
Right. And again, there's so much about the Messiah and the word of the Lord, and having that stuff removed, it's, confounded many matters and made gibberish a lot of things which otherwise would be clear.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, that ends our broadcast here, and we'll continue next week on your show.
All right, brother. Be blessed all.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you back next week, 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, here on the Revolutionary Radio Project on TFR. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Shalom.